This month's JW Broadcasting featured the leaders of Jehovah's Witnesses discussing several topics. And here we'll comment on a few of them, like modesty, forgiveness, and persecution. But there's one in particular that shows just how brazen and shameless they can be. Stay until the end to find out which one it is, and let's analyze it with critical thinking and plain common sense.
Before we get started, I want to make something clear. I deeply value my privacy. That's why the narrator's voice and image you're seeing were created with artificial intelligence. However, all the research, writing, and editing of this video were done by me, the creator. You can call me Nowachi.
Let's get straight to the point by watching what was said in the broadcasting about modesty.
Now, the Bible says in the book of Proverbs, chapter 11 and verse 2, that wisdom is with the modest ones, those who recognize their limitations. They don't think they have all the answers.
Wisdom is with the modest ones, those who recognize their limitations. They don't think they have all the answers. Sometimes I wonder if these people ever stop to think about what comes out of their mouths. I completely agree that modest people recognize their limitations, but precisely because of that, a truly modest person cannot claim that only their group possesses the truth. Someone who recognizes their limitations understands that knowledge is vast, ever-changing, and that no one holds a monopoly on spiritual or moral understanding. Therefore, claiming exclusive ownership of absolute truth is, in essence, a form of arrogance disguised as conviction. It becomes even more absurd when someone insists that only their interpretation of the Bible is correct, especially on matters that rely on highly speculative elements, like the way biblical prophecies are interpreted. To claim that a human reading, inevitably influenced by historical, linguistic, and cultural context, is the only valid one completely contradicts the very spirit of modesty they claim to promote. True modesty means accepting that one can be wrong, that there is still much to learn, and that others, even outside one's own religious group, may have valuable perspectives. When a religious group proclaims itself to be the only channel of God or the sole source of truth, it reveals the very opposite of the modesty it preaches, a profound inability to recognize its own limits. Next, we're going to change the subject and talk about a very sensitive matter. Let's pay attention to what they said in the broadcasting.
When the elders determine that a repentant wrongdoer is allowed to remain in the congregation, or one is reinstated back into the congregation, we might find it challenging to display a welcoming spirit, especially if we were personally affected in some way by the wrongdoing. In such a case, we could feel that we've been forgotten, that our personal feelings are being ignored, or that Jehovah doesn't care about the damage inflicted by the repentant wrongdoer. We could even feel that Jehovah has failed us.
Here, Mr. Hyatt says that if the elders decide someone can remain part of the congregation, they should be warmly welcomed, even by those who believe that person has hurt them. I want to believe they didn't consider all the implications of what they're saying. Suppose the elders determine that a judicial committee, or as they now call it, to avoid legal trouble, an elders committee should not be formed in the case of someone accused of abuse because the two-witness rule was not met. You understand what kind of abuse I'm referring to. Should the person who claims to have been abused feel morally obligated to welcome their aggressor with open arms? That, of course, would also imply not reporting the crime to the authorities. Now, it's clear they didn't say that directly, and what Mr. Hyatt expressed could apply to many very different situations. But it's also evident that this is one possible interpretation of his words. And even if that wasn't his intention, they should be far more careful. It seems they lack even the slightest sensitivity to the large number of such cases that have occurred all over the world. Let's talk about a segment from the broadcasting where their lack of awareness reaches the limit. Honestly, these men have no shame at all.
Jehovah's hand is with his people. In the legal field, we see it every day of our lives.
According to this man, Jehovah's hand is with his people in the legal field. We see it every day of our lives. What a shameless statement. I'm sure Jehovah was right there, helping them cover up all the abuse cases Barbara Anderson talked about. Because if her testimony revealed anything from within the very heart of the organization, it's that they knew exactly what was happening. The leaders received detailed reports, internal letters, and warnings. And even so, they chose to protect the image of the watchtower instead of protecting the children. Anderson herself prepared a report for the governing body with evidence of abuse and cover-ups. And what was their response? Silence and veiled threats against anyone who dared to speak out. And now this slick lawyer says that Jehovah's hand is with his people in the legal field, as if divine justice manifested itself in every legal maneuver, every appeal, or every out-of-court settlement. Cynical, shameless. And to wrap up this section, I'll leave you with this video where you can see the evidence showing how the Watchtower's legal department uses deception to mislead judges. Next, I want to draw attention to the way the Watchtower emphasizes persecution. In this month's broadcasting, the video specifically recounts the imprisonment of Jehovah's Witnesses in South Africa during the 1960s, as well as the experience of another man who spent many years in prison in China. Many witnesses see such persecutions as proof that they belong to the true form of Christianity, since Jesus said that his followers would be persecuted. But what they usually fail to consider is the following. According to the World Watch List 2025 report prepared by Open Doors International, just in the past year, more than 4,765 Christians were arrested and imprisoned, and 4,998 were killed because of their faith. These figures include Catholics, Protestants, and Orthodox Christians who live in countries where professing Christianity is an act of courage that can cost a person's life. In fact, it is estimated that at least 1.5 million Christians from different denominations live in countries where Christianity is completely outlawed. Places like North Korea, Afghanistan, Somalia, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen, and that another 100 million live under a functional ban in nations such as China, Eritrea, Libya, or Algeria, where Christian worship is only allowed under strict state control or must be practiced underground. In many of these countries, Christians are imprisoned, tortured, or killed simply for maintaining their faith. As we were saying, because their religion places such strong emphasis on persecution, Jehovah's Witnesses end up believing that these experiences are an unmistakable sign that their organization enjoys God's approval, while overlooking the fact that thousands of people from other Christian denominations, Catholics, Protestants, Orthodox, and so on, also suffer imprisonment or torture for their beliefs. According to the Watchtower's own data, there are currently about 250 Jehovah's Witnesses imprisoned worldwide for religious reasons. However, that figure represents an accumulated total, not cases from a single year like the statistics we just mentioned. When we put that number into perspective, it turns out to be very small compared to the tens of thousands of Christians who, according to international organizations, are imprisoned or persecuted for their faith in countries such as North Korea, Eritrea, Pakistan, or China. While recognizing the suffering of every individual, the numbers clearly show that religious persecution is not an exclusive phenomenon of Jehovah's Witnesses, but rather a far broader reality that affects believers of many different faiths. And finally, I invite you to watch the following scene and see if you notice the same thing I do.
Despite this challenging situation, their zeal for true worship remains strong. For example, out of nearly 29,000...
Wow, someone actually approaching the Jehovah's Witnesses cart with genuine interest. I've never seen that happen before. Have you? I'll be reading your comments.
Let me ask you something. Do you want this content to reach more and more people who need it? It's really simple, and it doesn't cost you a thing. Just hit subscribe, turn on a notification bell, leave a like, and share this video with anyone you think it could help. Thank you for being part of this project. See you soon.